Yeah. You can hear me now though, right? Give a sign in the chat if you can hear me. Yeah? All right. Awesome. Can you hear that? Awesome. All right, fam. Let's go. Do. That's okay. We're not monetizing. Let them hit me up. Put some proper music. Oh, right. We got a whole new artist. So yeah, actually those tracks are epic. Let me just get the glue from the sticker off the webcam. Alrighty. So we're gonna kick it off with there's like a little agenda. We're gonna start with crypto. So I always had this very ironclad belief in the supply shock on Bitcoin, and that leading to a 4-year cycle. So every halving, I expected that Bitcoin would pump dramatically. But as we see today, the pumps on Bitcoin are constantly reducing. So like we had 100x in 2017, and then like a 3x from there, 3.5x for like a 4. Went up to like 69,000, then high from like a 18,000 high from before that, and now we didn't even touch 2 times. So I don't believe anymore that there is a 4-year cycle in Bitcoin and crypto in general, and I actually don't believe that there ever has been anymore. Now time has told us that Bitcoin isn't following a hype cycle, a 4-year hype cycle. I believe that it's something that we kind of self-propelled as a community. I'm talking the broad cryptocurrency community, and I could explain why. So if you look at it, the generations that were involved in Bitcoin, it's people, Bitcoin propelled, people made a lot of wealth, and people made decisions for themselves on how they're going to use that wealth. And just a quick mic check. Y'all could hear me pretty clear, right? Yep, cool. So so I left off saying, big people that got into Bitcoin at the exact right moment, which would be like, obviously if you buy it, it goes up, stocks go up, gold goes up, things go up kind of steadily. But the kind of hype of Bitcoin, if you got them for $100, under $1,000, let's say, if you're still up 120x, it's essentially life-changing money. You could, pick up your hobbies, not work a second job, or you could also do things that are more, more interesting to you that you're holding out on if you have such returns. But essentially the hype cycle began back then. So kind of the people with conviction bought in and took it up way back in the day. And I'm talking 2013, 14, and behind that. So by the time 2015 came around, you had the first ICOs in 2014. And then by 2015, so literally with the Safex crowd sale, then you had like one crowd sale every 3 months. And then the Safex crowd sale was literally November 2015. Then as soon as 2016 hit, you had ICO. And the levels of greed in those ICOs just skyrocketed. And that is the end of the hype cycle. So essentially, you see a lot of organizations today that, the raises of Bitcoin. So if you wanted to raise $1 million, you'd get 1,000 Bitcoins. You'd get 1,000 Bitcoins. It would be 2,000 Bitcoins, 6,000 Bitcoins. Today, that's $600 million. And some of these organizations retain that. And so the ossification of the crypto, call it economy, the crypto atmosphere, has occurred, and it started back then. And so, and the reason that I've deduced that is because the generation that adopted it, through being, I don't want to say frugality, but more so discernment, were able to hold on to that coins and kind of live off of them, build things and do things for themselves, for others, or these organizations that still retain these Bitcoins, and onward and forward. And so that ossification, people get older, people's energy reduces, people get locked into, people in those organizations get locked into the ways that they establish for themselves and expect that to go forward into the future. And that comes down to, in my opinion, it's generations that are responsible for that. So it's like the Bitcoin generation of that era kind of sat down on the throne, took it, and then there's this expectation of returns that never actually occur. As I described, like Bitcoin is only just barely double of what it was in 2021. And so, in that moment, in that essential clinging of and to some kind of dramatic growth rate that's never going to arrive. Will Bitcoin continue to rise? Absolutely. Is crypto going to continue proliferating? In my opinion, for sure. However, it's going to be very different than a kind of parabolic trajectory. And so, I just wanted to literally go back and look at, the hypothesis. The evidence is clear that the 4-year cycle isn't there. Last year, Bitcoin grew up from, I'm talking through the late 2023, 2024, it 4x from 10, 15,000 all the way up to 60,000, kind of just sat there. I expected it to already be at 100,000, this time a year ago, or this time a year, not even. I was expecting that February rise to be where we are today, which didn't occur. And things continue to be in this kind of like reducing pump that, it grows, but these aren't meaningful or like very useful growths. And why does this matter? It's because the generations, as I was mentioning earlier in my description here, is the generation of that time, the ossification and the trajectory of that era stays kind of locked in its own vacuum. So how is this relevant, in my opinion, and what's next is because what is next is actually something totally different, something completely out of the blue. There's no left or right. There's no black or white. It's not even gray. The solutions and the answers are literally far removed from what anyone is talking about. If they're talking about it, that means it's not happening. And I mean that. And you could also see it in a lot of the altcoins. For example, Solana went from $8, then magically just boom, it's at $200. And then it just kind of bobs around there. And what does that look the most like? Well, it looks the most like a national currency. If you go look at the euro dollar, you go look at British pounds, you look at Japanese yen, they kind of they fluctuate dramatically, but not really. They go about 2% at a time. Throughout a year, they go like 20%, 20%, 20%. You make tariffs. Some guy sitting in a chair in a past established role, like a chairman or a president, they say a few words, or some third world country might make some dramatic upheaval, but it's all pre-planned because they control the supply, they control the narratives, and they also control the laws, and they determine what's the currency of that nation and how they interact and with other countries, and then exchange the currencies for other countries. And then you'll start to see that, like, for example, Ethereum. 1,000, 4,000, 1,000, 4,000, 1,000, 4,000. This is just a churn that just I can't help but to also notice like current events is, for example, the Twitter algorithm got nerfed. It's if you're talking about Solana and you're doing things on Pump Fun and things generally in if you're doing things related to Solana, you're getting a lot of traction. Then you discover the dude who's just got hired to manage tech for X Twitter, is directly connected with Solana. Okay, no big deal, fine, so be it. Good on them. But notice how it propelled to 240, 250 in the middle, just as this got taken hold of, the algorithm got taken hold of, and then so you see almost no content except content about Solana, and then in the moment when they address to adjust the algorithm and acknowledge that it's broken, it's dumping. What is that? Let's just hijack an algorithm for the 2 months. Suddenly you have a kind of focused content curation through the algorithm, and it just dumps. It's clearly an exit liquidity kind of like an exit liquidity moment. It'll dump. Of course, obviously, I believe it'll continue coming back up, but not after some conviction is tested, and not until. But for those moments, there's in the background systems collecting capital for the next drive, right? So and what does this mean, right? So the future for cryptocurrency is completely removed from anything that we've heard of, anything that we've seen before, and any strategies that have been employed from now into the future. So even like Coinbase, they're talking about allowing pretty much any cryptocurrencies to be listed on Coinbase. So now that the goalpost is moved, it's like even that suddenly being listed on Coinbase will be irrelevant. Obviously, it'll help cryptocurrencies like Safex, which were completely inaccessible, being listed to Coinbase even through this kind of like mainstream generalized channel. It'll definitely do a lot for something like Safex. And however, the future, once again, so that's like out of the way what I was thinking about with the 4-year cycle and what I realized, because I put a lot of weight on that 4-year cycle. I last year unearthed a bunch of Bitcoins and then started to set up shop out here in San Francisco, and then the growth never met. So I was trying to chase into the growth that I expected and hoped for based on my strategy of this whole 4-year cycle. But then not until maybe in the beginning of the summer did I start to kind of scratch my head and think, well, maybe there is no 4-year cycle. But I never said that phrase until literally like last night, when I realized that is kind of the summary of my observations over the summer. And so let's talk a little bit about Safex. So most of the crowd that's on the channel, thanks for joining, by the way. So for the Safex, for those uninitiated, those not following the journey who are tuning in now, it's probably the first time you're hearing about something like there is no 4-year cycle. Just a sec, I'm gonna pour a cup of tea. So as we kind of like move on to the next topic, love to hear any comments, if there are any for now. I think it'll be interesting. It'll be cool to see if anyone is going to watch this and take into consideration that maybe there in fact isn't a 4-year cycle. I'd love to see, any key opinion leader out there, some gurus out there who would agree with these statements, and who maybe any of y'all have discovered the same kind of conclusions as I. So that being said, to the uninitiated, I got into cryptocurrency in 2013. I worked on Wall Street as just a basic trader, then couldn't stand sitting at the desk trading, switched over to software. I was in an office with like 120 traders sitting at the desk, mostly old timers who no longer trade on the floor, waving their hands. And to support them, there were literally 2 engineers supporting 100 plus odd traders. And, I wanted to be them. And so then I became them. And in the very moment of that, I discovered Bitcoin and realized I could use my newfound software prowess to interact in Bitcoin, right? So just a sec. Yeah. So then discovering that you use software to interact with Bitcoin. 2014, first ICO came out, which was MadeSafe. That got me really excited because I wasn't coming into this with a lot of cash. I had my stash of Bitcoins. They propelled immensely, and that's kind of what solidified I want to be involved here. You've never seen anything on Wall Street ever make money off of, literally $1,000. Suddenly I had $12,000 and thought I could move to San Francisco. In those days, no chance, right? The best bet was to share a bed, share a room and a bathroom with another dude in with another 10 dudes. Like, not interesting. So I just slept on the forest, and I really thought Bitcoin was going to be $1 million each. But then within like a year. So this segues very closely to why I got involved in MadeSafe, is because once you kind of learn a lot about software, you start to realize the design of the internet. And in learning about how the internet is designed, you realize how unsafe it is. When I look back in the year 2009, well, the whole internet was in the clear. And anyone who knows quite a bit about computers on the chat or watching this in the future, if the internet's in the clear, every time someone swipes their credit card online, you could capture that, you could use that, and it's very hard to trace, right? I guess in those days, because of the lack of encryption, there's not much ways to obfuscate yourself. And so you would lose, you would be discovered, perhaps. I mean, if you were constantly on the move or something, then it would be a lot easier. But the main point is, if everything's in the clear, then every email, every time you text yourself, any information could be intercepted very easily, and especially by governments. And that's also unsafe for people just trying to live their lives. Imagine you're inundated with constant hijacking. So I saw crypto needed to be more secure. And so in 2014, that's when Monero came out. The ICOs started, more considered crowd sales, because these weren't securities. These were intended to be open, decentralized, open source projects. And so MadeSafe came about, and because of my really initial interest in software and not closed source, so I'm no longer working at a company, I wanted to contribute to the public. And I felt like that was, even if the, I only earned like 40K a year, some minuscule, relatively speaking amount, it would be worth it because you'd have sovereignty and be working on something that, funnily, it doesn't really have a deadline, right? There's no boss. So that would be fun. So got involved in MadeSafe, and a critical component of that is, or like a very focal point of working on MadeSafe was I built out, even though there was already like a enthusiastic community around it, I kind of took the reins to be a public face of MadeSafe, and the forum that at some point I was half of all the content in the forum. I literally was talking to myself until people joined the conversation. Then I backed off of my aliases, and then it was just, I presented myself as my person. And MadeSafe, the goal of it was to encrypt the entire internet and have a cryptocurrency. So essentially, you could have safety in a way that cannot be breached. So you couldn't build rails around it. Very difficult. And to the effect that the forums and the community grew to, now I'm talking 2014, the beginnings of all this crypto, the community was 50,000 unique people every month were joining in to communicate and be a part of building the encrypted, decentralized internet. It was epic. It was so epic that even every other project would show up to try to shill their thing within our community. And even to the point that Ethereum, every staff member at Ethereum at that time fought, had a whole debate, had a whole chat set up to argue with MadeSafe, myself and the entire MadeSafe community about how it will never work and how everyone should stick to Ethereum because of the momentum we're gaining. And if you look at the backers in Ethereum, it's pretty significant. It's not just Vitalik, right? It was the founders fund from the beginning, Peter Thiel. This is all CIA, right? Palantir, right? This is not conspiracy theories. This is just control, right? And so it's all just control. So Safex originally was designed to build a DEX on MadeSafe. So MadeSafe was supposed to finish their very heavy software. I was still very new to open source, so I more focused on communication and testing and just kind of building front-end apps for that stuff and build Safex kind of alongside it. However, you started to notice that the MadeSafe core development teams started to be like, it was decentralized, right? But the main group were in Scotland. And you could see the floundering in the development after that debate. And that's what made me and a bunch of early adopters in Safex. So it raised, roughly 200 Bitcoins worth about $50,000. I'm glad it was just that much because I did believe in the future growth. I didn't want to spend time campaigning, raising money, and just being like a CEO-ish kind of person. I just wanted to get back to the code. So essentially, the floundering of the development of MadeSafe, interviewing a few of the developers who were charged with getting it done, and so realizing that perfection is blocking us from being able to launch it. But I would say something happened over there. Something happened. Remember, it's decentralized, but at the core, the headquarters, the delays were sabotage, in my opinion. But in that same moment, before I made these conclusions, I just took the executive decision. I petitioned the community who hold the safe exchange coin, was called the SEC at the time. And that was kind of a protest. So I was just, in those days, I was like joking, if the SEC had a problem with what we did, no one really benefited. It's a 50K, I don't even have all the coins. I just want to build this thing and move on, with the journey of open source and protecting the world with software. Imagine the lawsuit would be the SEC versus the SEC. It'd be ridiculous, right? So I'm glad that ship has sailed. And they did cause problems in the cryptocurrency community. Remember, it's about control. And so the landscape has shifted entirely. So we voted at that time. Safex became sovereign. And then I went to the drawing board and started building a new network. And that is probably the most significant statement for the future of Safex. So even though, yes, there's a marketplace that we baked in, and yes, that was kind of like a central point of it. It's because you want to bring crypto to the real world. You want to bring crypto to everyday people. But if you already brought crypto to everyday people, then the possibility of control, if that effect took quickly, and there was no inundation, there was no sabotage, there were no kind of fangs or tentacles trapped into the development, as you saw in, for example, MadeSafe, and in by and large, probably every single cryptocurrency project or anything out there that is not trying is set to develop something. It's so easy to disrupt. You find one individual, you find any person, even the girl at the front desk could ruin the entire project. The cleaners, you name it. And there's no level of how to say discernment that you could apply to not be infiltrated by such a possibility, because you would have to just make sure that things are anti-fragile, so that if a cleaner pulled the cord out of the server, nothing goes down, because there's redundancy or stuff like that. But once you divulge, there's a redundant, there's a this, well, they're going to get there, they're going to get there. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but you could see how things progressed, not just for Safex, but, and Made Safe back then and onward. And then you could, when you actually dig into the background of people that get involved in some of these projects, well, they're tied to some kind of military, they're tied to some kind of organization that's tied to some kind of intelligence. You have countries would love to have your Bitcoins. You have countries that are in fear that they will miss out on the future economy. It's better just exactly. So that being said, that's kind of the Safex origins. You could even see the first videos ever made how to use the exchanges, Poloniex, Master Exchange, which is not around anymore. They were made by me. And I used an alias in those days. And I think that is a core element of why I was even able to make it down the road. And there were some, being here in San Francisco all the way back then, from 2014 through 2016, there are literally like In-Q-Tel, literally like West Point individuals, literally special forces who jump out of airplanes, who kind of just corralled people, found out what they're up to, and made sure that they didn't get very far. And if they did, that it was completely choked out, that there was a full control over the individuals such as myself. And that was easy to get out of, because when you're not greedy and you have your own already way of life, you kind of just like, well, this was a shot at doing something great. Clearly these people don't want to. I never kind of erred on the side of, well, these people are malicious, right? But today I would say the mandate was to ensure that nothing ever got built. So Safex got built, and through the years, even that launch was bizarre, right? I secured 5 exchange listings. A few of them were going live. We're propelling to $1 on SFX. I'm launching the marketplace, and then somehow some lunatic living in a tent was allowed to not only he didn't convince anybody. He didn't convince anybody. What actually happened is he wasn't stopped. And on this, because there's a basis, there's an individual complaining, they say, it's because of that, right? But the in fact is, we'd love to disrupt this guy. He kind of steers clear from everything. He's not a part of the parties, and so he can't be influenced. And so it just takes one cleaner to pull the plug and say, it's because of that. And there's kind of like, there's a why we did such a thing. And our bad. Years and years later, if you survived and if you still continue to do the things that you do. So that's kind of like the Safex origins, and kind of like fast forward to today. Just yesterday, we submitted damages claims for a lawsuit from 2021. The significance of that is it's likely one of the few, if any, cryptocurrency trademark lawsuits that were fought through and through. And as part of that, I developed a whole tooling set that will traverse the entire Binance chain, extract every single transaction that ever occurred related to a certain token, and replay it and interpret every contract involved, every address involved, the amounts, the value of the amounts at the time, and give me a P&L. And let's see how much anyone individually profited there. It was a massive undertaking. In fact, I don't sit around messing with Ethereum 24/7. I mean, I have, and I built some things in the past, but it's not the apple of my eye. So, but in this case, it's worth doing because it doesn't exist out there. And now I built a whole suite that it will work on any of the Binance Ethereum style chains. And now you can't hide. You see, it's almost as if it was designed for people to think that they can hide, and it's not all it takes. It took a dedication. It took painstaking detail in order to develop something that generically will traverse the entire aspect of a coin and give me the information about exactly who, what, when, and how much, right? So in fact, the original hypothesis of Safex, of MadeSafe, is it always has been, but how do you explain that without kind of an event, right? And so now I feel like we've reached an event where I'm trying to, hardly trying, I'm packaging the story in such a way that would convey exactly what I was intending all this time, is saying, well, you're not safe out there. No one's safe using those technologies because they are 100%, they're dangerously transparent, right? There's no safety. If you put your address in, if you put your Binance or Ethereum address for any purpose, anywhere where it links you to, I'm gonna find out everything you've ever done, ever. And I could prove exactly what you earned, when you earned it, and where you went with it. That's scary. There's no point in this. You know, it's, you get your paycheck, you know, you can do what you want with it, and you have a right to do that. And so the case for something like Safex, it's not even to hide, it's to protect. And so that is the whole point. And so the present, that came out of the blue. You know, we didn't know, you don't know when the judge will, you know, issue, you know, provide with the next opinion, or you don't know when the next phase of legal proceedings occur. Just shows up out of the blue. And in the middle of that, I was preparing the new launch for the new homepage. The new going dark was very important, and it kind of arrived on its own. The more I worked, the more I earned. You know, surrounded by individuals who have done something good one time, and then you kind of apologize for them for the rest of life. No, and you know, when you have capital and you're kind of going along the way, you're just like, okay, whatever. Okay, moving on. Okay, I'll deal with you later. But when it's so horizontal, you don't have time to deal with an individual, and then you're like, you know, harassed over here, and then you got like things going on that you want to attend to, but you got to still deal with these people. So now that is over and done with, in fact, like last firing was in March, it's done. Overhead is reduced to mental overhead, financial overhead. A lot got done, but it took, you know, breathing down necks. It took like scrutinizing, and that's no way to. That's not a harmonious building. And I would now say, through all this experience, that there's no organization that has such harmony. And if they do, like I did early on, well, eventually someone will notice an advantage to take, or an ability to sabotage, because that's not the narrative the establishment wanted to take. So essentially, like, as I make this video, the algorithms are literally absorbing everything. They're absorbing the audience. They're absorbing literally like the weather outside, and understanding where will this go next. And the personnel are literally in the board meetings, and they're like, and he did this, and he goes here to eat this, and so his energy levels are like that, and he's capable of that, and so and he likes this. So all these things apply, and then suddenly you meet people who resonate with you at a conference. That's why I almost never go to conferences, and if I do, it's just to show the brands. It's not necessarily to make friends. The people I made friends with are from 10 years ago, 11 years ago, people kind of discovering the same things that I did, where it's no matter, like in 2022, for example, the company, so I built the whole software, connected Amazon to it. It worked fabulously. A lot of people in the audience have used it with me. It was awesome. And the third parties valued it at $100 million. Like, you can't lose. And then you're canceled. That was insane. It's like they didn't cancel. They didn't say no thanks 6-7 weeks earlier. They said no thanks after hundreds of thousands of dollars committed. Every hurdle they threw at us. Oh, here's the paper for that. Here's the paper for that. Here's, you know, evidence for that. And then you sign, and then you're canceled literally the same day. This all tunes into everything that I was just talking about. And So you have to kind of remix the entire landscape for yourself, for the projects. Things don't change. Things don't change in terms of the goal. The vision is the same. It's protected. We're literally going to save humanity, because if it's all only Ethereum, then there will be no surviving tribe. The AI will take. We need to protect ourselves from potentially malicious AIs on automation devouring humanity. It's not an exaggeration. I'm not just saying that virtue signaling, whatever. Literally, humanity depends on us succeeding. I promise. No matter where I go, no matter where I look back to, look presently to, and conceive of the future with, it takes a lot of courage, guts, and expertise to pull this off. So, Safex, go back to MadeSafe. It's supposed to be an encrypted internet. That is still part of the vision. So Safex has a marketplace, yes. But why does it have a marketplace? It has a marketplace because you got to buy clothes. You got to skateboard. You got to still do everyday things. Remember, when I linked up to Amazon, there were everyday products, cleaning products, coffee makers, coffee itself, the things that you every day, right? And so it starts there. So if you could start to live on it, then the idea was, or the projection is, that we can then start to build that encrypted internet. And so that never changes. But what did change in terms of capacity and capability? The AI. So part of my success in building software is being able to explain what I want, right? I can write a memo. For years, I have staff, fully paid, and I just write a very elaborate memo. I design everything and I wire it out. And engineers, they work for a salary. This is one thing that I didn't get right, is I assume that there's way more passion in engineers. It's just a job. You go to college, you get a job, you get paid well, and then you save your money and you quit. That's what my experience has been. Not just in Safex, but in every organization that I have seen, that I've propelled, that I consulted in, it's pretty much mostly like that. There's just a very few, if any, other than the founder. So that's why it's actually important. If you have churn, you're doing it the right way. Churning out workers is actually critically important, because then no one kind of gets a upper hand within an organization. The founder made the organization to fulfill something. So it's kind of like a duty to either do it themselves, which I always initially wanted to do, but obviously Bitcoin went tremendously high, and I felt like I only needed to hire for the course of a year, but Bitcoin actually went way higher than I ever thought it would. And so it kind of, how to put it? People say, "Oh, you should have 6 months runway." They're like, "What if I had 6 years runway? Suppose I had 9 years runway." You see what I mean? Like, even with mistakes, you see what? So I kind of leaned on that concept of having this very long-term runway, which kind of allowed me, to my own detriment, to let things slide too often. Because money is a shield, but it is also digging you in a hole. It's not, you don't end up in a hole because of lack of money, you dig the hole with the money that you have. Funerals cost money. There's no one dies for free, right? You even need a death certificate costs. You died, it's not over yet, right? It's your heirs and your friends and family are still screwed, because there's still work to be done on your corpse, unfortunately. So thank God that it didn't get to that point, and it didn't get to that point because of courage. I put my foot down. Last year was hilarious. Sorry for anybody whose feelings were hurt. It wasn't my intention, but I did show that I'm a dynamic character and I can play many roles. Don't ever forget. So now, Safex with the AI, anything is possible, because you can describe anything you'd like if you already know how. And things that would take 2 years take 2 weeks. And there's no exaggeration in that. I used to always need to hire a front-end developer. I never need to hire another front-end developer for the rest of my life, so long as we have access to these AI things. I bought graphics cards last year, so that even if ChatGPT went down, and I learned how to use them. So even if ChatGPT goes down or things start getting censored, well, I'm all set. I could run things here. I could continue developing at the pace that I've been developing. Over the summer, I started to build a bunch of software, including a mobile wallet, piece of cake at this point, especially if you know what you want, you know where things are, you know how they should fit, and you just describe it elaborately. You code upon it and say, hey, you messed it up like this, I fixed it for you, take it from here. And it works fabulously. There's literally no delay. There's literally, to your heart's content, what you want to have, how you want it to look. So Safex went dark. People disassociated with Safex, thank the Lord. And now is a good time to emerge. And in such a way that to onboard new people. So long as we kind of grow up out of the concept of, we got to get on the market to pump. No, we get on the market because the price is a feature. It is a feature. When I start giving away SFX to the world, to anybody, and I mean that, what's wrong with having 1 million wallets active, new ones, people getting interested? This is what I'm talking about. If the prices are too high too fast, that gets awkward. But if we get a lot of users, that is value, that is power. And that's kind of where we're going with this. That's where I'm taking this. It's to give it to the people, like we've been talking about the entire time. Imagine you could message encrypted. Imagine the extensibility of the blockchain to also store information. Distributed compute. These are important things. And so Safex is not just a marketplace. Safex can save humanity. And kind of the start of the dialogue where I described there's a generation, right? So the Bitcoin generation, it also wasn't just about price growth. If you recall, I got involved in Bitcoin. Obviously, I thought it would go high very fast, but because of the people who I saw there at that time, however, and it did go up fast. If there's no 4-year cycle, well, got in and it went exactly where I thought. And that should have, or like woulda, coulda, shoulda, but that was a sign to just kind of coast out. Don't double down. Don't triple down as I did. But I don't regret. I did learn though. And if this resonates and you kind of see it, you could also start to, it doesn't mean that there's no growth going to happen in crypto in general, but it does. If you start to see, for example, from the software that I built, and you could see how the coin that was created was launched, and then literally on you can see how the pump happens, and then you see where it's sold by the insiders, and or who I allege are the insiders. It was like, so much activity for just to dump it and just extract. And it's not just extract, it's to extract and wipe it out, literally. You should be in fear, because what I didn't realize, people could just delete the internet. If you start deleting data, so for example, I have a selfie with almost everyone I've ever met. I have a video, a selfie, every contract signing has a video and a photo. I didn't know that it would serve me later in life, to the point where I spent 4 years in Serbia. I was like trapped almost. It's like over here it's going to be no good. Over there it's going to be no good. Let's just stay here. Let's just try to figure it out here. It seems safe, right? It's not that it was unsafe. It just, it could have gone. Like I'm in the middle of somewhere where Americans generally aren't. So I had to adapt and kind of, make do with what I've got. Life gives you lemonade, gives you lemons, you make lemonade. However, what I'm saying is, imagine I didn't have those photos and videos. People back home would be like, who did that? Who was that? Do you see that? Like, if you didn't have they can play with your memories. But it's like, no, I have a video and a photo. Here's their signature on a paper. I brought the paper. It's more valuable to me, that paper, than, I don't know, something you'd find, I don't know, like a bracelet, or something. I'd rather have a piece of paper that proves that, yes, like my journey is legit, real, valid, and there's all the evidence you'd ever need that it occurred. And I never knew that, because, during those times, we're talking like, I was in my late 20s, mid 20s, and you don't really get an experience like that where, you're not that interested in material things, other than, here and there for presentation. But personally, like, I just like to snowboard, I like to skateboard, and there's literally nothing else that matters. I like to see the sun, the stars, and then this green stuff is completely irrelevant to me. And but others will try to take what you have. Even if you didn't show up, the people will. I never knew, people who never met you, never even watched your video, will, and then the moment they heard of you, suddenly they have an opinion, and that's fine. But it's not fine when it starts to be affected, and it could affect through any place in the organization. So right now, lawsuit's done in terms of, I'm not sure that, or not that I'm not sure. Suddenly we got a judgment in August, addressed it, and so what I started in the summer, one thing I also realized is Safex grew and grew and grew, but there was no one, and kind of I specifically did that, or I didn't know it would have such a grand effect, but I kind of steered clear from any kind of professional investors, right? Because what does an investor do? They buy to sell. So for me, it was always about the community, even though it kind of, the crowd was just like, we're investing, you're the CEO. It's like, CEO, okay. Just kind of went along with things more so, kind of go with the flow, so to speak, not kind of challenge literally everything and everyone. Let me just get the job done and continue. We could all live our lives. But that being said, over the summer, I did open up a lot of dialogue with several people who I know, about finally getting them a position in Safex. These are people involved in crypto, and these dialogues are open and they're taking place. And so, don't get your hopes up, but I feel that is part of the strategy that will initiate Safex finally being on the market and accepted, and that plays into the fact that there will be lots of wallets, new ones. People are mining. The block reward is dropping now. This is huge because we now say you better mine it while you can. Every year there's going to be less. That is a motivating factor, right? We didn't have that motivating factor. It's like, okay, like better just continue. For me, I was always shilling and motivating people, but under the hood, let's be real. People generally were like, well, if no one joins, we'll lion's share. And I think we could all agree that, well, I always gave it my all, and I always continue to contribute, towards the messaging, regardless of what anyone else thought about that advantage and whatnot to mine the coins. But now, without a shroud of a doubt, it's yes, there is a motivating factor. You better start mining. And so my intention is to activate the populace of the earth to be mining. You got a computer, you got a CPU, I don't care if it's AMD or not, turn it on. It's the only way you could get cryptocurrency today with minimal effort. And that's a good thing. Get the money into the people's hands. Currency has to have it's current. It has to be a current, like a river current. It's mission critical for people to have Safex, for it to succeed. And as a result of many people having the coin, let them appraise it in their way, right? Which means, let's say, imagine the average wallet size was 5. Imagine it was 5 Safex cash. Well, if suddenly people want to use it as a medium of exchange, as it's intended, as it's designed to facilitate, people will, they will appraise those coins relative to what they're buying, right? And they'll also apply their frugality. They'll apply their future expectations for themselves, for their savings, things like this. So that's why I'm still like, I'll say it right now. Like, I believe Safex should be $100 a piece. Take that how you will. And the irony is, you could say, oh, it's preposterous, but it is. And I promise that like 99% of people, like, don't be greedy. Who cares, right? Even if you sell and you made a fabulous profit and it propels way beyond you, it's the same like Bitcoin. It's like a dude bought a pizza, right? I'm sure he felt good sharing the pizza with his family, and he spent 10,000 Bitcoins, and that's $1 billion. I think that, he needed to feed his family. Or should he have kept the Bitcoins and dished? You see what I mean? It made history. It doesn't matter, right? But I'm sure they still have Bitcoin. I'm sure the guy earned fabulous gains on Bitcoin, hopefully. But I'm just kind of speaking anecdotally. The individual people who are starting to adopt Safex, they will make these decisions for themselves. We came from, I'm talking in the chat. I mean, sorry if I jumped the gun and said, ascribed a characteristic to anyone who's watching that doesn't resonate with this, like they didn't have the same experience, but we're from that old generation, that Bitcoin generation, the 2017 generation, 2016 generation. It's, we lit the spark. And so tomorrow has to be about the next generation. Everything that we see presently, Twitter's important still, X is important still, but guess what? My account on X and Twitter went from having literally, I tweeted once, maybe per day, and I got maybe half a like on average per day, to hundreds to thousands, like a million views in a day. You see, that's how growth happens. I think generally, also kind of going dark on Safex, right? Like, I'm negotiating the kind of new Safex. I'm like, we don't even have a website. They're like, what's the website? I'm like, it doesn't have one. They're like, what? What do you mean it doesn't have a website? I'm like, it has a blockchain. I'm like, you can mine it, you can stake it, you could buy shit with it, and it's yeah, I like that. It's boldness and it's fact. And why would I publish a website prematurely before I put my mind together and kind of canvas the world before we put content onto the website? So that's where we're at. I think I covered all the bases. Yeah, there's no 4-year cycle. It's kind of like a generational cycle. It's 11 years. The new users were born, 15 years ago. They're only coming of age, and that's who's coming to benefit and to survive, all this tumultuousness using the new technologies. And I would wrap up. Anyone who's watching, yeah, we do got some stuff to take care of. I'm going to be in the chat. Happy to take any questions. Yeah, Ronan, literally, don't rush. I'm preparing software. Like, let's make it count. Let's make it count. Right now, all those wallets, everything, it's got to go. It's a lot of things don't even work on new computers anymore. So I've already started that process of revamping and developing new stuff. I even finished the homepage even while I was working on other things related to what I spoke about. And it's just kind of like at the right moment. If the website's launched and everything is blowing up without involving people I want to involve, then I'm just back at the same line back then. And like, how many times we all could have cashed out along the way and we didn't? Because it's not about that the price wasn't good enough or anything like that. Like, it just that wasn't the point. Like, I took pride in the fact that my Bitcoins are not worth as much as my Safex. You see what I mean? So I kind of sought to protect my Safex, accumulate more than to protect my Bitcoin or to feel like those. And I think I was right, because if I clung any further to the Bitcoin, well, the growth isn't there. The growth just simply isn't matching the efforts to save it. And then life takes over. You still got to eat. You still got to have your coffee. Yeah, you'll start to see. And you can't, no one can pull this off. No one else can pull it off, and I'll tell you why. Because when you still use the Ethereums and all this stuff, gas fees. That's it. It's got to take a richest man on earth to pull this off. And so, thank you guys so much for standing by. This is like, if I'm right, this will be very rewarding. I hope on a spiritual level for everyone. More so than you could work a job diligently and buy the right call options and ride the S&P that never goes down, and you could have still made money. If you're still here by now, this was nothing to do with earning money, right? This has been fun for me, and because it's fun for me, it's easier to kind of saboteurs and infiltrators. It's easier because you're willing to do things, for the group, for your vision. And so consolidating discernment and kind of back to first principles on, how I approached this a long time ago and how to approach this now, and given all the experience and all the insights that the strategy is so different now than ever before. And yeah, it feels good. Anyway, any more questions? I'm all ears. Also, by the way, Ronan in particular, Mr. 22, thanks so much for contributing to this is a big deal. It helps a lot. We won't be able to do it without y'all. And if there's anyone else in the crowd that hit them up, ask them if they would contribute too. And it doesn't matter, it's like $50. We just got to jailbreak this, and let's not get bogged down. And then I'll recover from my end. I just don't have time to do everything all at once, even though I always thought I did. So yeah, really can't make it without you guys. So I'll follow up with everyone if it's okay tomorrow, because they gave us time. But I'll make sure it's this weekend. Maybe later. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to sign out. If there's any questions, any comments, all ears. I'm glad y'all tuned in. I'm glad that we're still alive to do this still. And the world needs it. The world does need us. And maybe this whole journey was designed to I end up right where I started. It's kind of funny, kind of ironic. Like my workstations, I literally live like this. It's ridiculous. It's gilded, but it is completely focused on nothing but software, like computers everywhere. Those are probably got a terabyte of maybe like 600 gigs of RAM in the apartment. Literally moved across the Mint when San Francisco. So yeah, I got the apartment. This place was like very expensive when in the heyday of San Francisco, but because I got here, it's just junkies down there. So this apartment was on discount. It's hilarious. It's for a fraction of, you can't even believe how cheaply I got the apartment. What's next from here? I'm going to be publishing the website. I'm going to be publishing a lot of software. A lot of software, all Safex. A lot of software. The forum back online. With the forum back online, that's where our provenance is, so I could get the trademarks finished. So the trademarks are already accepted, but they need the first use. And we're on the third or fourth extension, and each extension costs. So getting the forum online, let me wrap that up and submit the first use, we're done. We'll get rights reserved on the SFT, SFX. We'll probably be the only ones first in the world who have that. Congratulations. And that's mission critical. I ask often, how do other projects deal with this? And the answer is they don't. I guess they kind of just propelled themselves high enough. They kiss the ring, or they accept the sabotage and, just kind of live with it. We got like the brutal side of the consequences of this kind of stuff. I don't know. Well, we're the biggest, fastest growing crypto. Ethereum grew 6,000x versus the dollar, 7,000x. Safex grew 6,000x versus the dollar. And there's no affiliations. You see what I mean? It's just, and you can't even get to the guy. He doesn't care. He cares about his things. He cares about morality. He cares, biblically, but he doesn't care about, sitting next to people with shiny teeth. It's not, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Like, everyone takes a shit at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So why would you kind of bend a knee to somebody who's inauthentic for control? Like, not interesting. Don't want to play slavery. I don't want to wake up one day and someone's telling me how to talk. So I value my sovereignty. And that's a core tenet of being American. And that's what I believe. That's what I know. And we have the opportunity to live like that here. Whether it seems like it sometimes or not, that is the case. And the arrangement of the landscape of this country is designed that way. That's why I'm grateful to have born here, and especially to live in California. Yeah. So yeah, software releases and enabling individuals finally get the marketplace usable. Right? Remember, it's we never got around to a good wallet that is very friendly. And now with AI and my full focus, getting rid of all this nonsense allowed me to, I don't need the opinions over my shoulders anymore. We talk face to face. We talk person to person, as opposed to in the past, people with weird, awkward, irrelevant expectations. Irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, it doesn't matter to me or the vision that someone wants to, what they want to do, go do it. It's, I always kind of go back to, I got a visit way back in the day in Serbia. Some guy showed up out of nowhere and he's like, oh, I'm going to have a $200 million something because of Safex. I'm like, how? Putting that kind of weight on me is not fair. Right. And then I asked him, well, how much Safex of this do you have that you think you could pull that off? And it's like, oh, I have 1 million Safex. That probably costed quite a pretty penny at that time, maybe $100,000. And then it's like, yeah, maybe if no one ever got in my way and I just got to do things right, would you get a 2000X? Maybe. Yeah. Why not? Right. But, and maybe they're still holding on to that dream and it might come true for them. It's not out of the wheelhouse, but it's kind of, in my opinion, it's rude to show up, meet somebody you don't know, and tell them that they're responsible for earning you $200 million. Like, no. The answer is no. Even if it happens, the answer is no, I didn't. You did. You helped. You believed. You see what I mean? Plus, you don't even want $200 million. I promise. If you get it, just keep your mouth shut if you can. The airdrop, yeah, absolutely. That is perfect. So actually, one of my plans were a part of my launch is I hope that people will mine or contribute to this system that will distribute SFX to literally every single human being on Earth. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. But it has to, it has to be. We're going to do it in a way that is effective. That's just going to give away free coins and just BS ourselves. We would I'm going to put 1 million coins. Someone gave me 1 million coins when I was on one of the sales. It's kind of ironic, and but it's going right in there. The foundation holds a bunch of coins. I made sure that it was flush in Safex. I mean, it makes sense. And but that's kind of why things kind of stumbled. They kind of hit it's as if they know exactly how much money I had at all times. You know what I mean? It's just give Dan make bills for Dan that equal his worth. And then suddenly, I'm like, oh, I'm out of money. And then they're like, oh, see? And then I'm like, okay, look at that. And then, I dig into old, 8 years old hard drive. Whooshy, look, dozens of Bitcoins. And it's just and then you just see the fiends oh, you're my invoice and this invoice. Just is this for real? And they're for real. It's just draining. And I guess that's my art, is that all I need is a pound of beef a day, and I'm good. A pound of beef a day and no one in my way. Cool. Yeah, like Benjamin Franklin style, like a pound of beef a day, stay out of the man's way, mind your business, take care of your things is what it means. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So that's the thing. So if we have 1 million coins and and you're sending one coin to there's a lot of ways. A captcha, right? There will be people gaming it, and that's great. I want people to game it. I want people to go into their chat room with 700 people, Counter-Strike players, and say, "Hey guys, there's free crypto here." I want that. I can't wait. When you say e-com guys, what do you mean by that? Live free or die. Hey, I mean, more like live free, live. Yeah, so I mean, that's the funny thing. In 22, we literally had the biggest sellers on Amazon on earth. Literally, I used in those days, I used to go onto Amazon and I had 130,000 fully stocked items that you buy every day. And I was working on the automated lister so that you would be able to buy any of those products. At this stage, we do not need to go out of our way. I would not say things that people will try to hold us to. Let the software drive it. You see, because as soon as I started involving others, then those problems arise, right? The problems start to arise because you literally, it sounds like nuts, right? But from my point of view, in my experience, in the scale that I've been operating at, which is massive, I can't even tell it is, right? There's people around me to remind me. They're either there to compliment me in ways that I don't even bother. I don't care. It's just like annoying, but I want to be kind, right? And okay, thanks. To people trying to force things upon me so that I can't see where I am. I wasn't able. It's not that I wasn't able. I know how wealthy I became, but I also, it's like, oh well, Elon Musk has this. No, but guess what? It's like I'm 1%, top 1%, 0.01%. Try 0.00001%. There's like 10,000 possible human beings in my position on the earth for the last 7 years. It's just like, they're just like, duh, I'm paying salaries, duh, I'm trying to get this done fast. I try to grind it faster, it just like drains my energy. It's just like, look at my hairline, it's ridiculous. I'm just like scraping my hair out all day, like trying to understand. But I know for a fact, when I switch the character, people want to disassociate. I'm like, yeah, you want to still continue riding my coattails? You want to ride this guy? You're this lunatic? You want to keep riding a dude who's cussing on the internet and still 2,000 people watching? You want me to say your names? Are you sure you want to still continue fucking with me? Nay, we're sure they didn't. That's when you knew. But then there's plenty of people who are like, well, whatever it is that, made you understand and accept that, sometimes you see a rated R movie. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if people want to sell, like, keep it in your wheelhouse, but I wouldn't stress too much. People like to try new things. That Amazon connector thing, I still have that code. It's still very relevant. It's going to be a lot of fun, as long as we keep it fun. And I'm not going to be creating new cost. That's very critical for me. That's awesome for me. So there's no fundraising, right? As a community, these are like the DigitalOcean thing that has been bombarding. It's like I'm trying to just take care of me, like everyone takes care of themselves. And it's like, if you've seen the DigitalOcean bills over the years, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars, happily paying it, but being rug pulled in a different way personally has led me to the point where, like, I'll put effort, I'll pull out, an old wallet. I'll pay my bills, but it's just like, and then I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that. That's because I'm not fundraising anymore. I'm not doing this corporate stuff anymore. So it's like, once I get that unlocked, I'm pulling all the servers out of it. I'm redeploying what is necessary, and that's it. Like everything is going back consolidation mode, highly effective. Call it efficient too, but call it effective, because when you're scaling, like when you hire people and you need the payroll person, and you need the lady that says nice things to them every morning, and you need the cleaners, there's more mess to clean. Like, oh, now you got to pay bills, so now you need somebody to pay the people. It's just like, now you got to keep track of that, and then you got to keep track of them. It's just nonsense. And then it's just like I was saying, it just takes one person who's in the know that they have an agenda to wipe out everything you started. And then it's just like, I mean, thank God I'm athletic style. Like, I brought home with me pretty much everything I've ever owned personally. Like I literally, like, just real quick, like look, there's a pile of hard, like, all right, like, I don't even know what's there. I didn't, but it's just like 8 hard drives there. How did I get them? It's just like, you know what I mean? I'm happy. I am, though, because we're all good. Yeah, AI customer service. Yeah, that's the other thing. We don't need budget anymore. I don't need coders, bullshitters, people who get tired and sick and my stomach hurts. You know how many times I heard someone's stomach hurts? Like, just finish the job, get a bonus, and fuck off. Like, literally, like, but I always brought it up nicely. I never really cursed anybody. I never called anybody out. Costed us a lot. But I think the safety was worth it. I think, pun intended, right? The Safex was worth getting to San Francisco, consolidating, realize there are people going to come in who are not your friends, who have no intention for your success at all. So, yeah. I think I'm going to wrap it up. I got to take a walk. Be on for like another few minutes. Even doing a video like this, like, if I continue to do well already last year, they would just continue to just dig their claws deeper and deeper and just expect me to be bending the knee, right? Like, it is what it is. But it's not the last conversation we're going to have. So, but it is among the first. I think so too. Along the way, I could say it's burdensome. I'm really good at keeping myself in good spirits and continue to persevere. But I do very much love that I have the kind of freedom that I've always desired. A few more minutes, I'll be on. If anything comes to mind, I'm happy to chat. Thanks, Galitzone. Hope everything's good out there, out in the East. Stay safe, Put that fence up. Things getting hairy out there, fortunately. If you get to America, I would get to America if you could. Hopefully I'm wrong. Yeah, my whole dream was to just make it right back to San Francisco the whole time. Like, the whole time. But if, like, you're going to get back and your own people are going to be rude to you, like, may as well just enjoy, like, just being in a new place until things kind of blow over. Yeah, sun is setting out here in San Francisco. I really can't wait to get outside and see, yeah, like that. Like, I know the city inside out. I literally slept on the streets for fun, just because I could, just for a change of pace, just so I didn't have to bother, paying rent, worrying about that. How ridiculous. It's how they get you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hopefully these things don't just, happen tonight or tomorrow night, but the signs will start to arrive. Just keep your eyes open, I couldn't imagine coming back to San Francisco, um, successful, and it's just fentanyl. I never even knew that fentanyl exists. And you just watch people on the streets just dropping dead. And that's how I started to arrive at these conclusions. It's like a systemic extermination. It's literally a systemic extermination. Last year there would be tents along that building behind my head. Just people and there would be a police officer standing next to those people watching dozens of people just smoking pipe. It was the most and it led me to conclude so much about the earth that I had no clue about, that you'd never learn in school, that almost no one gets to put together because we're all busy doing things everyday people need to do. I was lucky, or had a little bit, had 1 ounce of foresight that allowed me to just kind of sit back and observe. And then my observation doesn't fleet. It's still here because, well, my duty is to provide open source software, right? So I'm at my desk. And so I'm watching this occur, and I'm like calling a friend, and I'm like, dude, this is by design. It has to be. They don't help the people because it's not just cheaper. It's not about money. They could print money. It's about you can't help a fentanyl addict. You can't help them. You'd need 10 workers to help one fentanyl addict if they got holes in their legs. What kind of life is that person going to have if there's bacteria putting holes through people's bones while they smoke fentanyl? They die. That's the only outcome, unfortunately. Code reviewers. I still type. I still type a lot. I still type a lot because it doesn't know everything. It knows a lot of the ordinary things like building web pages, doing HTML, CSS. But when you're developing new stuff, you have to explain it. And you're right. I like being a code reviewer, so to speak, but you still got to type, or those skills will calcify. Your brain will lose the neuron pathway. They'll still be there because your brain's a hologram, and you can always bring it back, but you're going to have to train it like you ride a bicycle. You always know how to ride a bicycle, but you'll forget syntax. Like Rust, for example. It took me a couple months to start getting proficient in Rust again. Letting the AI do it meant I can't edit that code. I had to start personally infiltrating my own code so that I could have Rust code, even though the AI does a fabulous job at building Rust code. But stuff like front end development, I'm so happy that I never ever have to do that again. And I'm slowly kind of getting the hang of it, but I'm still kind of stubborn, focused on just back end development and let the UIs get developed. But so that's the thing. If you're only coding for a job, congratulations, and at this point, so one thing on the AI, so you could make a lot of basic applications that earn you a nice living. You know what I mean? I can't imagine working for another person ever again. Because you could build, you just get ad revenue. You just build these kind of build 5 small websites with a basic tool that gets 2,000 visitors a month. That's going to pay. It's times 5, times 10. And some of these apps you could develop in 10 in you could develop one app a day, even deploy it and throw some ads on it, make it well SEO'd. And if I was seeking to earn a living for using AI, that's where I would place my bet. And for sure, there's a lot of niche apps that if you're obviously you're really good at coding, you could bang out very quickly, very easily in free time in your weekend hours. It doesn't have to be a crypto that goes 1,000x to feel really good about earning a good living without future effort. For sure. Yeah, this is more than a volunteer team. I mean, then I'm also your volunteer. Um, Yes, I want us to fabulously profit, from all this. However, there's no guarantees of that, and there's a lot of forces out there. But the most important to me is the observations I made. It's not. I used to think I'm developing for people older. Right now, I'm 34, but it's really the 20 somethings. That's it. There's no other audience that is relevant. It's the 20 somethings. There's a huge group of that, and they're the most energized. Us old timers, and I'm calling myself an old timer. Take care of yourselves, and so that you may live a good life and a long life. But it's the young people you have to protect. You have to don't rip them off. Serve them. I mean that. I'm going to sign out. I'm going for a walk before the sun is set. And I really do appreciate everybody coming online with me. It's a new chapter, and it actually is. No sidekicks. It's just us. And if you're still here, there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? It's you see something, you have strength, you have a good head on your shoulders. That's my opinion. Thanks a lot, Mr. 22. Catch y'all later. Be good. Thanks again.